My grandmother never once bought a bag of fertilizer. She never turned on a sprinkler system. She never ordered anything off the internet. And every single September, she pulled enough potatoes out of a patch of ground smaller than a card table to feed our entire family through a Pennsylvania winter. I'm talking about a space so small you could cover the whole thing with a single sheet of plywood. And when I tell people that, they look at me like I am making it up. But here is what most people do not know. The method she used was not something she invented. It was not some gardening hack she found in a magazine. It was a system passed down through generations of Amish families in Lancaster County. A system so effective, so deeply understood, that the people who used it never even thought of it as impressive. It was just Tuesday. It was just what you did when you had a family to feed and a piece of ground to work with. But here is the thing that is going to change how you look at every garden bed, every backyard, every corner of a driveway you have ever written off as too small to matter. This method does not just work. It works because of something happening underground that almost nobody in the modern world understands about how potatoes actually grow. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Now, before we go any further, I need to tell you something that the internet gets completely wrong about this method. You have probably seen the headlines: the medieval potato method, the ancient potato secret, the technique that goes back hundreds of years. And here is the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Potatoes were not in medieval Europe, not even close. Potatoes come from the Andes Mountains of South America. Medieval European farmers had never seen one. The first documented shipment of potatoes from the Canary Islands to Antwerp did not happen until 1567. The botanist Carolus Clusius did not receive potato tubers in Central Europe until 1588. John Gerard did not even write about them in his famous English Herbal until 1597. So when someone calls this a medieval method, what they are really doing is borrowing the authority of history to sell you something. But here is what makes this story so much more interesting than the marketing version. Medieval European farmers were not growing potatoes, but they were doing something with their soil, with their beds, with their understanding of how plants grow underground, that laid the exact foundation for everything that makes this method work today. They were building raised ridges, they were hilling root vegetables, they were managing soil in ways that modern agriculture abandoned and that Amish communities quietly kept alive for generations. The method is not medieval, but the wisdom behind it absolutely is. And that wisdom, combined with what Amish families in Lancaster County perfected over 2 centuries of feeding large families from small plots of land, is exactly what we're going to break down today. Here is what those medieval farmers understood that we have almost completely forgotten. They treated soil like it was alive, because it is. Every fall, after the harvest, they spread composted animal manure across their garden beds. Not fresh manure. Aged, broken down, composted manure that had been sitting in a pile near the barn for months, sometimes through an entire winter, slowly transforming into something that looked and smelled like dark, rich earth. Fresh manure burns plants. The nitrogen content is too high, too raw, too aggressive. But aged compost releases nutrients slowly. It feeds the microscopic life in the soil. It loosens heavy clay into something roots can actually push through. They also added wood ash. Every winter the wood stove produced ash, and instead of throwing it away it went into a dry metal container in the barn. Come spring, that ash went into the growing beds. Wood ash is loaded with potassium and calcium. Potassium is what builds big, dense, starchy tubers underground. Calcium strengthens cell walls and helps plants resist disease. They were not buying fertilizer. They were not ordering amendments from a catalogue. They were taking the byproducts of staying warm and feeding their animals and putting them back into the ground. A closed loop that built soil fertility year after year, generation after generation. Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, has some of the most fertile soil in the entire country, and the reason is not geography. The reason is generations of Amish farmers doing exactly this, building the soil up instead of depleting it. And then there were the vegetables themselves. Medieval European gardens grew over 100 different varieties of plants. Skirret, a perennial root vegetable that tastes like a cross between parsnip and sweet potato, planted once and harvested for decades. Good King Henry, a leafy green that acted as spinach, asparagus and broccoli from a single plant that came back stronger every year. Scorzonera, a deep taproot vegetable so rich in prebiotic fibre that medieval physicians prescribed it for digestive complaints. Rampion, the plant that inspired the fairy tale of Rapunzel, grown as a winter salad vegetable when everything else was frozen. These were not primitive crops. They were perennial, self-sustaining, soil-improving plants that required almost nothing and gave back everything. And the farmers who grew them understood something that modern agriculture has almost entirely abandoned. You do not fight the land, you work with it. Now here is where everything changes. Here is the piece of information that makes this entire method make sense. The thing that, once you understand it, explains why Amish families could pull 80, 90, sometimes over 100 pounds of potatoes out of a 4 square foot space while their neighbours dedicated 30-foot rows to the same crop and walked away with 40 pounds. Potatoes do not just form beneath the seed potato you plant. They form anywhere along the underground stem of the plant. Read that again. Every inch of potato stem that is buried underground has the ability to produce lateral shoots called stolons, and every stolen tip swells into a new tuber, a new potato. In conventional gardening, you plant your seed potato, you hill it once or twice, and that is all the buried stem you ever give it. You get 1 layer of production, maybe 2, and then you dig it up and wonder why you only got £1 or £2 per plant. But when you grow vertically, when you keep burying the stem over and over as the plant grows upward, you are giving that plant permission to produce tubers along the entire length of its stem, instead of just the bottom few inches. You're not tricking the plant. You're not forcing it to do something unnatural. You're giving it exactly what it wants to do anyway, and just getting out of the way. That is the science. That is why this works. And everything else, the tower, the straw, the repeated hilling, is just a delivery system for that one biological principle. So let us talk about how you actually build this. You need a structure with a footprint of roughly 4 square feet. That is it. That is your entire growing space. The most effective version uses welded wire fencing with 2 by 4 inch openings. You cut a piece about 12.5 feet long, form it into a cylinder roughly 4 feet in diameter, and secure the ends together with wire ties. Set it on level ground in a spot that gets at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight. Full sun is not optional. Potatoes will not produce well in shade. Line the inside of the bottom 12 inches with straw, pressing it against the wire walls to create a nest that holds your growing medium in place, while still allowing roots to breathe. If you do not want to build a wire tower, you can use a wooden frame, a 55-gallon drum with drainage holes, large containers, even stacked tyres. The structure does not matter as much as the principle. You need walls that go up at least 3 feet, drainage so water does not pool, and enough width for 4 to 5 seed potato pieces per layer. And if you want the absolute simplest version, the one that requires nothing but straw and seed potatoes, you lay 4 seed pieces directly on the ground in a 2 by 2 foot square, cover them with 8 inches of loose straw, and build up from there. No structure, no construction, just potatoes and straw, and the same biological principle doing its work underground. Now here is where most people destroy their results before they even get started. Not all potatoes work for this method. Potatoes come in 2 types. Determinate varieties produce all their tubers in 1 layer near the base of the plant, regardless of how much you hill them. Yukon Gold is a determinate variety. Red Norland is a determinate variety. Most early season potatoes are determinate. If you plant these in a tower and hill them 4 times, you will get the exact same harvest you would have gotten in the ground. The hilling does nothing extra. The biology simply does not respond. What you need are indeterminate varieties. These are the ones that keep producing new stolons and tubers along buried stem length as the plant grows taller. Russet Burbank, KBEC, German Butterball, Canella Russet, Elba, Katardine. These are the varieties that Amish gardeners in Lancaster County favour for vertical growing because they respond to continuous hilling by producing tubers at multiple levels throughout the tower. This one detail is the difference between a £40 harvest and a £10 disappointment. Get certified seed potatoes from a garden centre or seed supplier. Do not use grocery store potatoes. They are treated with a sprout inhibitor that will sabotage your results before you even begin. About 2 to 3 days before planting, cut your seed potatoes into pieces roughly the size of an egg, making sure each piece has at least 2 eyes. Let the cut surfaces dry and callus over in a cool shaded spot. This prevents rotting once they are in the moist growing environment. and 3 to 4 weeks before you plan to plant, take your seed potatoes out of storage and put them in a cool, bright room. Not direct sunlight, just bright indirect light. The eyes will begin to sprout short, stubby, strong little sprouts about 1/2 inch long. This process is called chitting. It tells the potato that growing season is here. Plants grown from chitted potatoes emerge faster and stronger than those planted dormant. Now we get to the part that actually multiplies your yield. Fill the bottom of your tower with 6 inches of a 50-50 mix of compost and straw. Place 4 to 5 seed potato pieces on top, evenly spaced, eyes facing upward. Cover them with another 4 to 6 inches of the same mix. Water thoroughly. Your tower should be about 12 inches tall at this point. Within 1 to 2 weeks, depending on soil temperature, you will see green shoots pushing up through the surface. And here is where most conventional gardening stops. You are not going to stop. Every time those green shoots grow to about 8 to 10 inches above the current surface level, you add another layer. 4 to 6 inches of your compost and straw mix, piled around the stems, leaving just the top 3 to 4 inches of foliage exposed above the new layer. You're burying most of the stem each time, and every inch of that newly buried stem is putting out new stolons, new formation sites, new potatoes. You will repeat this hilling cycle 3 to 4 times over the course of the growing season. Each layer you add is another floor in your underground potato building. By the time you are finished, your tower should be about 3 feet tall and packed with developing potatoes from bottom to top. Once your plants begin to flower, stop adding layers. Flowering is the signal that tuber formation is well underway. From that point, let the plant put all of its energy into swelling the tubers that are already forming rather than producing new stem growth. The signal that your potatoes are ready is when the vines begin to yellow and die back naturally. Do not rush this. Those final weeks are when the tubers put on their last weight and the skins toughen up for storage. A vertical tower dries out faster than an in-ground bed because the straw and compost mix is exposed to air on all sides through the wire mesh. This is the single biggest factor in how many pounds you pull out at harvest, and it is where most people go wrong. Stick your finger into the growing mix about 3 inches deep. If it feels dry at that depth, water thoroughly until you see moisture coming through the straw at the bottom of the tower. During hot summer stretches, that might mean watering every other day. During cooler or rainy periods, twice a week is usually enough. Potatoes that go through cycles of dry and wet produce knobby, misshapen tubers and reduced yields. Steady, even moisture produces smooth, full-size potatoes. The compost in your growing mix provides most of what the plants need, but a side dressing of balanced organic fertilizer every 3 to 4 weeks during the active growing phase helps. Do not overdo nitrogen. Too much nitrogen produces beautiful leafy tops and disappointing tubers underneath. Watch for Colorado potato beetle eggs on the undersides of leaves and remove them by hand. Keep all tubers covered from the light at all times. Any potato that turns green has developed solanine, a mildly toxic compound, and cannot be eaten. The layering method naturally handles this because you're constantly adding new soil on top. Plant marigolds around the border of your growing area. They repel certain insects naturally. If you have space nearby, beans fix nitrogen in the soil and benefit everything around them. Horseradish planted at the corners of your potato patch has been used by Amish gardeners for generations to deter the Colorado potato beetle. When harvest day arrives, this is the moment everything was building toward. If you used a wire tower, cut the wire ties, unwrap the fencing, and let the whole column of straw and compost collapse. Then start sifting through the layers with your hands. Potatoes will be sitting at every level from the bottom of the pile all the way up. Small ones, medium ones, big, beautiful round ones, layer after layer after layer. If you used a wooden box structure, start from the bottom and remove the lower boards one by one, reaching in and pulling out the potatoes that have formed in the lowest layers. Those are usually your biggest ones. If you use the straw-only method, simply pull the straw apart. The potatoes sit clean, dry and undamaged at every layer. No digging, no sifting through soil, just potatoes nested in straw waiting for you. For storage, a cool dark space that stays between 35 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal. Lay them out in single layers, not touching each other, so that if one begins to rot it does not spread to the others. Properly stored potatoes harvested in September can last all the way through to the following April. And after the harvest, none of that straw and compost goes to waste. It gets turned back into the soil, or added to the compost pile where it will break down over the winter and be ready to go back into next year's potato bed. The whole system feeds itself. Now, I want to be straight with you about something, because I think honesty matters more than hype. The headline says £100, and that number is achievable. Experienced Amish gardeners with mature indeterminate varieties in good growing years have hit that number, but a realistic first-year expectation from a single 4 square foot tower is £40 to £60. That is still an extraordinary yield for the space. Your neighbour with a 30-foot row might pull £40. You, with a structure the size of a card table, can match or beat that number in your first season. Improve your technique each year, dial in your variety selection, get your watering consistent, and those numbers climb. The method is real, the biology is real, the results are real. What is not real is the medieval label. Potatoes were not in medieval Europe. The history was borrowed to make a marketing headline sound more ancient and authoritative than it actually is. But the wisdom underneath it, the soil building, the vertical thinking, the understanding that you work with the biology of the plant instead of against it, that wisdom is genuinely old. It lived in the hands of Amish families in Lancaster County for generations. It lived in the ridge and furrow fields of medieval European farmers who never saw a potato but understood the earth in ways we're only now beginning to remember. Space is almost never the limiting factor. Knowledge is, and now you have it. If you have a backyard, a patio, a rooftop, even a corner of a driveway, you have enough space to grow more food than you think is possible. You do not need perfect soil. You do not need expensive tools. You need a wire cylinder or a pile of straw, the right variety of seed potato, and the understanding of one simple biological principle. Buried stems make more potatoes. Everything else is just details. Give it a try this growing season. Use a late season indeterminate variety. Build your soil with real organic matter. Layer as the vines grow. Keep the tubers covered from the light. Water deeply and consistently. Be patient. And then when September comes and you tip that tower over and you see what is waiting for you in that straw, come back and tell me about it, because I already know what you're going to say.